So for lesson 3, we're going to move on to looking at our opening paragraph to the writing section. There are some more tasks around planning and the planning stage, which we will have a look at when we are back in class. But let's move on to looking at our opening paragraph. So for this first task, you will see on the slide that there are loads of different devices linked to writing to argue and persuade. There are loads of devices out there. You might have heard different mnemonics like a forest, for example. Don't get too caught up with trying to remember every single device. It's really important that you think carefully about what devices work well for your piece of writing. So for this task, there are a list of devices on this slide. Go down the list, write down a definition of what that device and technique is, and if you can, write an example of that device. So we've already done a little bit of planning. So you can see on this slide, I've got an example of my plan. It's a bit of a basic outline, but you can see that I've got my paragraphs in order. I thought carefully about where I want to put my points. If I was to develop that plan further, I could start thinking about different devices that I already want to put in those paragraphs. I could start thinking about vocabulary choices, but that's my plan for the time being. Your opening paragraph is really, really important. It's the first thing that your examiners will read, and it's the first thing that they will see. So you need to make sure that you grab your reader's attention. Nobody wants to argue a point or a statement that sounds dull, boring, or just repeats the question. So you need to make sure that you think carefully about how you're going to hook in your reader. So here's an example from a different question. So you can see the question on the slide, the question about parents today are overprotective. They should let their children take part in adventurous, even risky activities to prepare them for later life. The task was to write an article for a broadsheet newspaper in which you argue for or against. Now, you will see that I have an opening paragraph here from candidate 1. Let's have a read of this opening paragraph. So, my opinion on this is our parents should let their kids do what you want to do, because if not, they will do it anyway. And also, this does make some people depressed, and could do something stupid. Okay, so that is an opening paragraph from a grade 1 and grade 2 response. Now, there are some things in there to warrant some marks, so we can see that they've tried to put across an opinion and that they are matching the purpose for the task, that they've obviously read the question, but you can see that there is a little bit of a struggle there, that just starting with my opinion is on that statement isn't the best way to open for a piece of writing and to argue. And as I said before, it doesn't really hook or grab any interest. Even if we can see that the candidate has tried, they're not going to get the marks warranted to get any further than a grade 1 or grade 2. So you can see this is an example from the next candidate on this question. I'm going to read through the opening paragraph of this one. With technology progressing and knowledge being as high as ever, I say it's the perfect time for children to be going out and exploring. But how is it possible with our overprotective parents? Okay. So you can see that this opening paragraph is a lot stronger than the one that we looked at on the last slide. And there are a couple, I think, of clear reasons for this. You'll notice that the candidate has thought very carefully about a very strong opinion. They haven't started with, this is my opinion, but there's a sense that they're talking directly to the reader. It gets a sense that they're trying to include the reader into that opening response. The use of the rhetorical question, so we've got a clear device being used here, but the use of the rhetorical question at the end of that sentence with the connective of but to change and to grab and hook the audience is effective. But how is it possible with our overprotective parents? We can see if we're to continue with this piece of writing that it allows the candidate to then move on to their second paragraph to either provide some sort of explanation around that rhetorical question. What's also, I think, quite important to note is not only is it more grammatically correct than candidate 1. But the use of vocabulary is slightly more advanced. It's not in the ambitious stage. It's not any further than probably grade 4 for vocabulary. I do like the use of the adjective to describe the parents, so the overprotective parents. They thought carefully about that vocabulary there for impact and to really put across their thoughts and their opinion. So there are some definitely, you can see there with a use of device, use of vocabulary, that they're thinking about how they're going to try and interact and engage with their reader. So thinking about both of those two candidate responses that we've looked at, there are many more, and we'll look at some more detailed candidate responses in class. But what I would like you to do now is going back to the question about the sports stars, is to write 3 different style openings. In each of your opening paragraphs, I want you to have a go at including at least one device. Think carefully about how that device is going to impact your reader. I also want you to think about your vocabulary choice as well, and to make sure that it is grammatically correct. If you can maybe get somebody at home to check over it and have a look at it as well. Once you've written out your 3 different style openings, I want you to decide on which one you think is the most effective opening at grabbing your reader's attention, and explain why.